Hey guys, Crypto Sunday, and it's a quiet week, down about 2,000. Not really that quiet, I suppose. There's a reasonable amount of news, but I thought I would sort of answer a question from Julia. Sort of asked why I'm in most of the alts that I'm in. And I thought I haven't done that in quite a while. A lot of them, there isn't really a sort of huge amount of news week to week. So I thought I would just sort of give a very quick overview on each of them. Quick news in brief, I guess, then. The Grayscale sort of trust, GBTC, kind of got a win against the SEC. They want to transfer it into an ETF, and they've been rejected in the past. And the court has ruled that it can't be rejected for that reason. So they've been ordered to vacate their rejection to convert it to an ETF. This does mean that the SEC could just sort of review it, and if they've got sour grapes, just reject it for another reason, and then they may reject all the others for the same reason. But yeah, that may sort of lead to something positive. The BlackRock one got delayed, and I believe a few of the others got delayed, so that's not really surprising. And I guess the sort of nuke everything idea, they basically got this over the line, I think partly because futures ETFs exist. And yeah, so the sort of nuke the industry would be reject them all for a different reason and remove the futures ETFs. But they seem fairly happy with those, so I think they'll either reject it for some other reason specific to these, or they might just approve a good few of them and maybe allow Grayscale to convert theirs. So yeah, we'll see what happens. So as far as looking at my holdings, I shan't go across Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think everyone sort of pretty much knows why I'd be in those and are probably in them themselves. And then Solana and Cardano, I would say, are sort of fairly well-known projects. I cover a lot of sort of developments between the two because I kind of see them as competing in my portfolio. Although I've let Solana get a lot bigger by sort of investing fairly heavily in that, and I haven't bought Cardano for a long while. But yeah, I do sort of cover those two trading blows. So yeah, I thought I would have a look at the rest. So Chainlink, if people don't know, is a sort of data transfer company, basically. They use decentralized oracles to connect smart contracts with off-chain data and services. So it's basically bringing data that isn't on-chain into the blockchain world, which I see as quite an important service. And there's sort of one or two competitors that are sort of quite a lot smaller and sort of people that do different things, one of which I'll sort of get to a little bit later on. But yeah, they've got some sort of decent partners. Whether all of these, they may have been sort of a trial, or sort of, they aren't exactly using it every day, but of course they're going to put these right up here if they've had them. Swift certainly have sort of made quite a big deal of Chainlink, but yeah, sort of Amazon and Google, I wouldn't imagine they're just sort of getting their name there. But they do have sort of quite a lot of connections, to decentralized finance, a lot in NFTs and sort of gaming and data providing. They're sort of spread across various blockchains, of course, mostly the layer 2s and Ethereum, BNB as well. And yeah, so it's sort of providing data from, as I say, off-chain sources. Can be sort of getting the weather or something if you want to get that, getting price feeds from sort of various other crypto sites. Maybe you want to get prices off CoinMarketCap or something and integrate that into a decentralized app. And yeah, it seems like Chainlink is sort of basically the way to go. They've just carried on expanding and expanding. They do work on proof of reserves. You reserve somewhere else and sort of have a live data feed, and that sort of feed into say, a decentralized exchange or a centralized exchange. And yeah, it just seems a hell of a lot of potential, basically, and sort of at a 3.2 billion market cap. So it's not exactly a super small cap, but I could see that going a lot further. You know, in a sort of, if this grows in sort of traditional world, you could easily see this being a sort of $50 billion company, data company. So yeah, that's my thoughts on them. So XRP, very troubled past. They've won their court case mostly against the SEC, although they are appealing. They've got to pay a fine for selling to institutions directly, but the court have ruled that the token itself isn't a security, so they're kind of unlocked again. They're sort of going back on exchanges. Coinbase have, I believe, listed them again, and they're sort of becoming more friendly. And so that is kind of bringing companies out of the woodwork that were sort of discussing using them, but not really sort of powering ahead. And Bank of America sort of wasn't really quiet about it. They were talking about using them even during the sort of the ban, if you like, during the court case. But it was all kind of, we will potentially start using them once the court case is over, assuming they win. So, yeah, big companies like Bank of America sort of partnering with them. And the idea is that they sort of get in with the big traditional banks and sort of potentially central banks and sort of do transfers between each other. Obviously, there's lots of coins that could do that if it's basically just transferring money sort of at a low cost, but whether they want the sort of instant transfer and sort of secure transfer rather than just low fee, that seems to be the way they're going. So it's always seemed a reasonably big market cap for what it is, 26 billion. You know, whether that can sort of 10x or more, sort of as you're hoping for. If I think Bitcoin and Ethereum could sort of 5x, then you want a hell of a lot more from sort of more speculative altcoins. So yeah, not 100% convinced that this sort of could do those sort of numbers, but they just kind of hold on to it and see where they can go. Potentially these big partnerships. Who knows? I mean, if they did a 10x, they would be sort of well above, I think, above Bank of America and sort of heading not too far away from companies like JP Morgan in terms of market cap. So, yeah, that's my sort of skepticism, but I'll hold on to it. So Quant is sort of seems to be quite quickly turning into a sort of seedy, nasty CBDC coin that nobody really wants. They are sort of collaborating with Bank of International Settlements and the Bank of England, and I've seen sort of a few other partnerships that are sort of potentially looking to create CBDCs. Gilbert Verdian, the CEO, has sort of, if you look at his CV, he's held all sorts of jobs with you know, Bank of England and sort of various quite large companies, and sort of seems to be the connection between all of these banks and sort of government entities and world entities. So yeah, this is kind of my into all that, really. They do also run a similar to Chainlink, maybe not a competitor to Chainlink, but they run a sort of interoperability service, basically, where sort of various companies can connect over the blockchain. I believe the project isn't actually a blockchain, it's sort of more a software company almost, but they do have the QNT token behind it, and sort of if you want to use that network, you need to use Quant token. So yeah, it seems quite interesting, and you've got that sort of CBDC side to it. There's also, where are we? It's also quite a low supply, so a lot of people get sort of very excited about that. 12 million Quant and 14.8 million max supply. So it's one of the only coins that is less than Bitcoin. And yeah, people get excited about that. That it's only $100 and sort of so it's $1.2 billion market cap. I think that's, if you're thinking about sort of XRP numbers, it's sort of working with the big banks and sort of potentially doing CBDCs and that sort of thing. Ripple have talked about doing CBDCs, but yeah, Ripple sort of, over 20 times the market cap. So yeah, I kind of like Quant as just a little bit of a punt on that sort of thing, and maybe we end up making the Bitcoin Bank of England central bank digital currency, and that would be a nightmarish world, but you might as well make a bit of money out of it. So Audius, everyone's sort of favourite streaming service that no one's really using from the looks of it. They always put the 4.5 million monthly active users on the top here. I do sort of check in every now and then to some of these stats and just see sort of who's using it, and sort of compare to, I often compare to Spotify and sort of compare the market cap of Audius to Spotify based on sort of, dividing the market cap by monthly active users and just sort of seeing where we are. And yeah, if you sort of look at the API calls, so how much people are sort of integrating their API into other sites, it was sort of rising up quite nicely, but has sort of fallen off a cliff. The plays always seem to be holding up a bit better than users, so the people that are using it are sort of using it a fair amount, although again that has dropped off quite a bit. And unique users actually has sort of done reasonably well, so they're saying 3.7 million users for August, where again they put 4.5 up here, but yeah, I think it's an interesting sort of punt as a streaming service. So it's sort of mostly electronic music, hip hop, and that sort of thing. Didn't realise they had audio books as a bigger section, but that seems to be quite new. And yeah, they sort of partnered with TikTok and that sort of thing. Seems quite interesting. Sort of obviously TikTok have 1 billion users, so you've got a potential audience there. People sort of see a bit of music on TikTok and it says, "Oh, streamed through Audius." So yeah, it's a tiny project. What are we market cap wise? Yeah, so market cap of 165 million. Fully diluted is not much more, 178 million. So yeah, there's potential there. I think, it could be, if it sort of gains traction in the streaming world and people like the token, you could easily see this, even if it just gets to sort of a couple of billion, that's a 10x. So yeah, a couple of billion for a streaming service is potentially doable. So yeah, I quite like that one. Polygon, I guess, doesn't really need all that much explanation. It's the only layer 2 that I actually hold. Not all that keen on the layer 2s, but Matic do seem to have sort of carved their own little niche. They seem to be getting a lot of the big partnerships. They've sort of worked with, as I say, Adobe, Adidas, Disney, Meta platforms, Nike, all sorts of people really, and they do seem to be quite good at getting these partnerships on the go. Whether they're just selling tokens and paying for these partnerships remains to be seen. But yeah, it's sort of a decent layer 2, I think, to go for. Haven't really been sort of interested in things like Arbitrum and Optimism because they're sort of very, very new and still issuing masses of tokens. And yeah, if you look at the sort of diluted market cap once all those tokens are issued, they are quite big. So Polygon are sort of not quite up there. It's $5 billion market cap. So yeah, it's and what are we fully diluted? Yeah, $5.4 billion. So it's nearly all out there. So you're not going to get dumped on tremendously unless they sort of increase the supply. So yeah, I kind of like that as a reasonably big layer 2, or pretty much the biggest of the layer 2s in terms of fully diluted market cap at least, or aside from Arbitrum and Optimism. So getting into my smaller holdings, Power Ledger is actually, I believe, the smallest one. It's not my, it's a reasonably big holding for me, but it's the smallest project that I hold. But I kind of like the green sort of electrification side, and that's what I'm going for in my stocks. So I thought, why not go for a crypto? That was the idea sort of years and years back, and they sort of don't seem to have got all that much traction recently, but they still sort of have done lots of pilot projects. There are sort of they push the sort of micro electricity grid. So, 50 houses in a local area get their solar power. You can all, if you like, sell your excess back into the grid and you'll get an awful rate. Or, you can say to the 50 houses, we'll all use what we use. And then if one person sort of has a surplus and one person needs a bit more, you can trade the energy rather than sort of selling it back to the grid, and that might sort of work out a hell of a lot better. Certainly in the UK, there's quite awful rates for selling back into the grid at the moment. So yeah, I can certainly see this as an idea, and they think basically if we go more renewables throughout the world, then we are going to be using sort of these microgrids and sort of basically becoming more decentralized in energy, whether that be on crypto or not, unless we all go nuclear, of course. But yeah, the sort of project seems to have done an awful lot of pilot schemes around the world, and has potential, I guess. They also moved on to Solana, so that was quite nice for me. They sort of saying that works a hell of a lot better for them, because they if they sort of get these projects going, they do thousands and thousands of transactions because it's selling small amounts of electricity to other people. So yeah, that's seems a sort of nice little project, and it's tiny market cap. It's yeah, fully diluted 129 million. So I have no idea what the potential of this is. If it sort of grew to a reasonable energy sort of portion of the energy market, then yeah, it could easily be billions, but it's whether they can sort of get that going, really. And obviously they're competing against the sort of large energy companies. They'll be wanting to have a say in the renewable future. So yeah, big companies to go up against, but yeah, I quite like them, and it's nice to have a bit of a green token. So Gala Token, they have Gala Games, Gala Music, and Gala Film. So you have this sort of game platform, a sort of Steam-like platform, which kind of drew me to it, really. I'm a gamer and I use Steam, and I think the idea is that this could be a sort of a Web3 future Steam competitor, and sort of introducing, including NFTs and that sort of thing that you don't get on Steam. So more a sort of blockchain integrated, storefront, and sort of the games that come on here could issue their own NFTs through the store, and sort of use, whether they use Gala token or not, the games that they develop themselves do all tend to use Gala token, so that's sort of an incentive to be holding it. Whether they'll sort of try and get third-party games on there and get them to use Gala token, I'm not entirely sure that'll work out, but we'll have to see. And then they've got the sort of music, partly I think streaming platform, partly sort of issuing an album, say, as NFTs, which is sort of very interesting to me, but they don't seem to have got all that much traction with it just yet. And then sort of Gala Film, which I think is sort of part streaming platform, part using NFTs to fund your film. So yeah, it's maybe spreading themselves a little bit too thin, but there's certainly huge potential for it, I think. And yeah, even if it is just the game side, then I sort of see a reasonable amount of value in a Steam-like platform, and they also sort of make their own games. They have sort of say a dozen games, some sort of bit of names in there, Walking Dead game, and yeah, Battlestar Galactica game. So I think this has certainly got potential. It's obviously a risk whether they can sort of afford to be doing all of this, but we'll see. And token-wise, they are 890 million now because they've dropped down quite a fair bit. I haven't been buying because I just see sort of more value in stock options at the moment, sort of bets, sort of leverage bets on something a little bit more safe in gold and silver and some of my stocks. But yeah, certainly some of these tokens could do pretty well. Even the sort of fully diluted market cap under a billion, if they were to get music, films, and games all sort of going, then could easily be sort of 10 billion or more. So there's a potential 10x there from here, even if I am sort of now quite a bit down on my holding. But yeah, we'll see. So Brave browser, I do have Brave browser down here, as you can see. I do most of my sort of YouTube stuff and actually crypto stuff on Chrome at the moment, but do still use Brave as sort of my other browser. And yeah, you can see sort of they're doing reasonably well. Sort of daily active users still rising up to 22 million now. Monthly active users is more, but has sort of trailed off since middle of last year. Now sits at 60 million, so not quite sure why daily is up, but monthly is flat. And yeah, you can sort of see additions reasonably good, but it's sort of slowing down as they get to millions and millions, and we're also in the bear market, so it was rising a hell of a lot more. You can see, the monthly active users certainly was rising pretty much all the way up to the bull market end, and then sort of kind of stopped. But yeah, I think it certainly has potential. Sort of 60 million people using it a month, 22 million people a day using it. How much the advertising side, so they use the token for paying advertisers and people that sort of want to use the platform, and there's sort of a tipping ecosystem and that sort of thing using Brave token, because it blocks most of the ads on the websites. So yeah, there's that seems a little bit combative to the sort of general industry, but if they want to sort of use it and get paid directly, there's potential there. And token wise, it is 250 million fully diluted now, so that is basically all out there. So yeah, it's a fairly small project. I think if we sort of get into the bull market and it starts growing again, and it could sort of start competing with Chrome and Safari and Firefox, then yeah, it's certainly potential here. And the owner, Brendan Ike, I believe, was sort of ex-Ethereum and ex-Firefox, I believe. So yeah, he's certainly got sort of experience, he says, in being the underdog and taking on sort of big competitors. So yeah, we'll have to see where this goes. It's sort of back down to the lows that it was at basically before the bull run. So certainly got potential to go up, but we'll see. But I like these numbers. And then last two very small holdings now. VChain, I sort of was watching for years and years, and just decided to put a little bit into them. I'm sort of reasonably down on it, but it was only a £1,000 investment, so I'll have to see where they go. But sort of they're getting into NFTs and sort of lots of other different things, but the main draw for me with them was the sort of supply chain side, and that they had a partnership with Walmart China. So they do come from China, so that's why it's not the whole of Walmart. Obviously Walmart China are allowed a little bit of autonomy and to sort of do different things than the rest of Walmart, but they seem to be sort of, it wasn't just a trial, they trialed it and then said it was working really well, and they've sort of expanded it and still saying it saves them a lot of money and allows them to sort of track products from the entire sort of supply chain, basically, from sort of fresh goods to the shop, basically, and sort of saying that it works really well. So yeah, whether that can sort of push out to other companies seems to be a little bit slow. I haven't really seen any sort of other big partnerships yet, but they certainly have potential, and they're not too big, I don't think. So yeah, 1.3 billion in fully diluted, and sort of 1.1 in current market cap. You can see I don't really go in for these sort of, you know, where 10% of the circulating supply is out there, because I just think you're going to get dumped on all the time, and even if they grow, you just got a headwind against you, basically. So I kind of like projects that are sort of mostly all out there, and yeah, whether this could sort of 10x or more, it's a small holding, so that's what it should be really hoping for against Bitcoin. But yeah, it'll be $13 billion. Maybe that is a little bit big, but we'll see. And Internet Computer, I guess I've thought this was probably a mistake since I bought it. I'm sort of heavily down. I did actually sell this for a tax loss harvesting and bought some back. So I lost about 75%, I think, on this, and sort of sold that to sort of save a little bit of tax. But yeah, I think they've, you know, they're always sort of boasting about how much development they're doing. They've got a huge team. I think they are a heavy issuer, so there's constant sort of issuance of new tokens, and that sort of is a headwind on the price. But they're sort of working on basically providing a layer 2 to Bitcoin and sort of smart contracts on Bitcoin, which I don't think anyone really is doing other than sort of the stuff on Lightning Network. So that was quite interesting to me, and they're looking to sort of bring that to Ethereum as well. But obviously there's a huge ecosystem already with Ethereum. But yeah, I kind of like you've got, you know, 4,000 transactions a second, which is more than most, and sort of basically as much as Solana, which is sort of one of my very keen holdings. So they're reasonably decentralized as well, and yeah, I just think they've got sort of reasonable amount of potential if all of their work can pay off. People call it a scam coin, of course, because it basically was sort of sold very, very cheaply to VC investors, and then they sort of got a load of hype. Whether this was from the team or not, the team obviously say they had nothing to do with it, but there was a huge amount of hype around it, and the VCs all sold at sort of $300, $400, $500, and it sort of very, very quickly. This was around the time of the China mining ban, so it was appalling time to launch a token, really. But yeah, it's all quickly dropped down and has just sort of continuously dropped down ever since, never really having very much of a pump. So again, whether this is because of the constant issuance, who knows? But yeah, I sort of hold it as a bit of a speculative bet, not something that I'm adding to. It's already actually, even with all of this drop, 1.6 billion fully diluted market cap. I would imagine this is because of the issuance and the inflation. So the circulating supply is most of the total supply, but the total supply is going up, I believe. So yeah, that's them. It's a speculative bet, but with some promising potential, basically, with the sort of speed and low fees and sort of the work that they're doing with potentially smart contracts on Bitcoin. But who knows? That's why it's only sort of a small holding. So that's basically the whole portfolio. I won't go through the price movements this week because it's sort of largely unchanged. But yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.